There are stories that seem like fiction, stories so improbable that if they weren't recorded, they would be dismissed as exaggeration. This is one of them. The story of an ordinary woman who was present at 3 of the greatest maritime disasters in history and survived them all. Her name was Violet Jessop, and the world almost forgot her. Violet Jessop was born into a world where survival was never guaranteed. From her earliest years, life tested her strength in quiet, relentless ways. As a child growing up near the sea, illness nearly claimed her life more than once. Doctors believed she would not live long, yet she survived again and again, as if fate itself had chosen to keep her. Even then, the ocean seemed to call her, not as a place of fear, but as a force that would shape her destiny in ways no one could imagine. When Violet grew older, necessity pushed her toward work aboard ocean liners. The sea offered opportunity where land did not. She became a stewardess, working long days, serving passengers who crossed the Atlantic seeking fortune, family, or escape. These ships were marvels of human ambition, floating cities that promised safety and progress. For Violet, life at sea was demanding but steady, a rhythm she learned to trust. Among the ships she served aboard was the RMS Olympic, one of the largest and most celebrated vessels of its time. It represented modern confidence, a belief that engineering had finally mastered the ocean. Violet performed her duties as she always did, unaware that the Olympic would soon reveal how fragile even the strongest creations could be. In 1911, the Olympic collided with a British naval warship. The impact was sudden and violent. Steel tore against steel, and panic rippled through the ship. Though the Olympic did not sink, the illusion of invincibility was permanently broken. Violet survived the collision without injury, but the experience left an unseen mark. It was her first close encounter with disaster at sea, a warning written quietly into her life. Many would have left the ocean after such an event. Violet did not. She returned to her work, believing that survival carried meaning, even if that meaning remained hidden. Fate, it seemed, was not finished with her. Not long after, Violet accepted a new position aboard a ship that would become the most famous ocean liner in history. The RMS Titanic was larger, grander, and more celebrated than anything the world had seen before. Advertised as unsinkable, it symbolized human confidence at its peak. Violet boarded the Titanic unaware that this voyage would define her life forever. The early days of the journey were calm. The ship glided across the Atlantic beneath clear skies, its passengers relaxed and unaware of the danger waiting silently ahead. Violet carried out her duties, moving through corridors filled with warmth, light, and quiet optimism. On the night of April 14th, the ocean was still, the stars unusually bright. Nothing seemed out of place, and yet everything was about to change. Every collision came without warning. A subtle jolt, a strange vibration, and then confusion spread through the ship. At first, few understood what had happened. Violet continued helping passengers, offering calm reassurance even as uncertainty crept into every corridor. Orders were given, lifeboats prepared, and fear slowly replaced disbelief. As the Titanic began to fail, reality settled in. The ship was sinking. Violet was instructed to guide women and children toward safety, to help them into lifeboats despite their resistance and fear. In the chaos, she was handed a small baby, placed into her arms by someone she never saw again. There were no explanations, no time for questions, only the instinct to protect. She entered a lifeboat as the Titanic's deck tilted beneath her feet. The cold Atlantic air cut through every layer of clothing. As the lifeboat was lowered, the vastness of the ocean became terrifyingly clear. Behind her, the Titanic loomed, its lights glowing against the darkness like a dying city. From the water, Violet watched as the ship slowly disappeared. The sounds that followed were unbearable. Cries echoed across the sea, fading one by one into silence. The night seemed endless. The cold seeped into bone and memory alike. Violet held the baby close, unsure if either of them would survive until morning. Hours later, rescue arrived. As survivors were pulled aboard another ship, Violet handed the baby back to a woman who appeared suddenly, said nothing, and vanished into the crowd. Violet never saw them again. She carried the memory silently, like so many others from that night. The world mourned the Titanic, but Violet returned to her life with the sea. Though haunted, she continued forward. Survival to her was not a triumph. It was simply something that happened. And once again, fate waited quietly for its next moment. Years later, during the First World War, Violet served as a nurse aboard the HMHS Britannic, a hospital ship tasked with saving lives rather than carrying luxury. The ship sailed through dangerous waters, marked clearly with red crosses. Trusting in protection that war rarely respected, one morning, an explosion tore through the Britannic. The ship struck a naval mine, and chaos returned without mercy. Lifeboats were launched too early, pulled violently toward spinning propellers. Violet knew she had to act. She jumped into the water, hoping distance would mean survival. Instead, she was dragged beneath the surface, pulled toward the blades below. In a desperate moment of instinct, she fought free, her body colliding violently against the hull. She surfaced alive, but gravely injured. Later, she would learn her skull had fractured. Even so, she had survived once again. After the sinking of the Britannic, Violet Jessop continued to live a life few could imagine. She did not seek attention or recognition. She did not present herself as a hero. Instead, she worked, traveled, and eventually retired, carrying memories that words could barely contain. When people learned of her story, they often asked how she could return to the sea after everything she had endured. Violet never offered dramatic answers. To her, fear was not something to be conquered. It was something to be accepted. Survival was not destiny fulfilled, but life continuing, one quiet day at a time. Violet lived to the age of 83. She passed away peacefully in her sleep, far from the chaos that once surrounded her. Her life stands as one of the most extraordinary accounts of endurance in modern history, not because she sought danger, but because danger found her again and again. She survived 3 of the greatest maritime disasters the world has ever known, not through strength alone, nor through luck, but through persistence, instinct, and an unspoken understanding that survival does not always come with meaning. Sometimes, it simply comes. Violet Jessop did not conquer the ocean. She did not challenge fate. She endured it. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson her story leaves behind. That history is not only shaped by those who fall, but also by those who quietly rise, time after time when the world expects them not to. Some lives are remembered for their victories. others for their losses. Violet's life is remembered for something rarer: survival without spectacle, strength without noise. A woman who walked through the impossible and continued forward, carrying the weight of history in silence. And perhaps that is why her story still matters today. In a world that celebrates noise, speed, and triumph, Violet Jessop reminds us that endurance is often quiet, unseen, and deeply human. She did not seek to be remembered, yet her life became a testament to resilience itself. If stories like hers deserve to be preserved and shared, consider subscribing to this channel. Here, we tell true stories that history almost forgot. Stories of ordinary people who faced the extraordinary and lived to carry it forward.